Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the photo scene.
Hi.
Thank you.
We are super excited today because we have Patricia on our show with Plan A Events. Is that correct? I said that right?
Yes,
Plan
you got
A?
it. Your
Okay.
Plan A events.
Yeah. I noticed that you have the same start of your website, Your Plan A Events. Like we have Your Photo Scene, but we call ourselves The Photo Scene.
Yeah, right? That is just
So
cool.
that's interesting. I thought that was cool.
Love it.
Okay, so let's get straight into it. So tell us a little bit about how you got into the planning industry, Patricia, and like what's your background on this? Like what happened to like evolve into I know you're not just a wedding planner, you're an event planner also. So tell us a little bit about that and what you do.
Well, thank you so much for having me on today. I'm so excited to be here.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
chat with you guys a little bit about weddings and events. I started getting into kind of design and color schemes and creative outlets when I was really young with art classes. My dad was a design architect and owned his own company, and I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur at some point.
Yeah.
And so when I was growing up, I actually had a document on my computer when I was 8 years old of my own wedding. And I had everything saved.
8 years old? Oh my god.
8 years old. My mom would tell you the same thing. I had a hard drive that I saved it all on, and I had little like screenshots that I put on a Word document.
Way.
Wow.
And I had a binder full of ideas, and I kind of dabbled a little bit in the thought of being an interior designer as well. But I love the people aspect of things. I love working with different types of people, cultures, backgrounds, and learning about others. And I really, really started to learn more about events because my mom would always have big events at our house too. So I started to kind of learn a little bit more about that. I worked as a bartender at a local resort when I was in college, actually my freshman year, and I would kind of talk to their event coordinator and kind of get to know and work in the banquet side of things on the weekends.
Yeah.
And then I actually started working for an event planner out of Washington, D.C. during my sophomore year of college. I was going to school for business administration so I could get kind of that business side of things. And
I've noticed that about you. I was like, where does she get that business side? Some of that.
She's got it.
I love it. I know. I love that.
Yeah. So I studied business marketing and design at William and Mary, and graduated from there with a business administration degree. And while I was going to school, I would schedule my classes so that I didn't have any classes on Fridays. And I would drive up to DC every weekend and work with, it was a company called Simply Breathe Events. They still exist and they are doing great. And I really learned a lot working for their team. And I knew I was very clear. I always knew I wanted to start my own company, but I wanted to make sure that I could get that perspective of, working for a team before I started my own company to really get some experience. And I learned a lot. And then my husband and I got married in 2019 in Annapolis, Maryland, and he's in the Navy, and we moved to Pensacola, Florida, and I started my own company there. So that's how I got into it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that was back in 2019. So you started your business and you got married at the same time.
Yes.
Wow. Did you plan your own wedding then?
I planned my own wedding and designed that. And I had the team that I worked with, they were so gracious and did the coordination of my day for me.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
That's so cool.
Your wedding was beautiful. I saw some pictures. I was like, oh my gosh.
Thank
you. That's so exciting.
So I always knew I wanted to do this. It just kind of took a couple of little different things to get here for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy that I'm doing this. It's my love. I treat every event as if, I'm attaining the goals of our clients, but really as if it were my own, because I treat it with that amount of care. So
absolutely. And I kind of see, like, I saw on your site where you have you have industry creatives on there as a button and you click over. So can you tell me a little bit how you separate the two? Like, 'cause I see that there's two portions on there, and I was just wondering how you're helping industry creatives, and then what you're also helping just clients that are trying to like plan events. So how does that work?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Working with you all on the photo scene is one of the aspects of the industry creative side of things. It's really, really important to me, as we've all discussed before, is having that integrated relationship with your entire vendor team for any event that you work on. It's so, so important to have a strong working relationship with those people, because you're spending, 16 hours in a day with them. So anywhere from just a couple of hours to even, a couple of days in a row sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's so important. And that's why I'm so passionate about that, is having that, relationship with the vendor team that you're working with. So as I started to get into doing styled shoots, and I've helped a couple of different companies and groups on their branding, sessions, I really realized that I should have a separate avenue for creatives to reach out and really start to develop that relationship and work together on styled events, and with the photo scene, working to help with photographers and design this content day that we have coming up, which I'm so excited about. And
that's gonna be awesome.
So that's why I have that separate avenue, so that, especially for our clients, that they aren't confused by what we're presenting, and that industry creatives are aware that we're also really passionate about that side of things.
Yeah.
Right. So can I ask you, what do you work with, all kinds of different vendors? Like, how does that work? Do you have a team of people that you just consistently work with for all jobs, or are you kind of picking up talent as you go? Just kind of I want to work with this person. How does that work?
That's a really, really great question, and we get asked that all the time by our clients. Because we work with clients all over the U.S. We've got, Oregon, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., Vermont. The question is often asked, how do you source the vendors that you work with, and do you have a team that you work with regularly? And I think that speaks to our level of detail with helping our clients select the right people for them, and also helping our industry partners be connected with the right type of clients. Because it's so, so important. We do not have a set list of people that we're just, referring to, 5 photographers or, 3 videographers that we love to work with. Of course, we have a dedicated list of people that we have seen and we love their work in different areas. But it is completely dependent on where we're working and the needs of each client. So when we talk about vendor selection, we're really getting to know vendors. Our goal is to create a curated list of vendors that we are attracted to in terms of their design aesthetics. Okay. And then we really try to connect with those vendors on a more personal level early. But if we can't do that, when we're going through the process and we're selecting vendors that we feel fit not only budget, but design constraints, we're having conversations with these different vendors in advance of sharing them with our clients to really make sure
So you have like a roster kind of set up, and then you just kind of go what off the client says and like needs. Then you have like this list, like, well, okay, this is what they say that they need, and then you pull from your vendor
absolutely.
list. Is that correct?
So we definitely pull from a roster, but again, we're also looking further than that. So if we know we've never worked with someone that we feel could, or we haven't quite seen what we're looking for yet, we're going to look all over social media. We're going to look at different blogs and search by location, and even looking at, Pinterest or the Knot Wedding Wire, all different types of things. We use hashtags to search on Instagram. But sourcing those various different vendors and then having conversations with them on a personal level about our clients, because we've already gotten to know our clients. Like you guys, you get to know your clients too. So you know a little bit about that, hearing about their love story and, all about kind of their personality, because we talk with them so much. I always say our relationship with couples is almost like carrying a baby or longer. Like you get to know these
I never
people
looked at it
really
like
well.
that. That's so true.
So it's a long process. It's very involved. We spend a lot of time on Zoom calls, on email. We really get to know these people. And so we want to make that process as easy for our couples as it possibly can be. So if we can help, get on a phone call with a vendor that, for instance, with photography, you spend so much time with the couple on the day of their event. You don't want to be in an awkward situation with your clients, and your clients don't want that either. So if we can help kind of alleviate that and get to know the vendor first and say, maybe this isn't the right fit personality wise. Like we should keep looking, or, these two seem like a really good fit. Let's get them on the phone with the clients and see. We let the clients have a conversation. We let them lead that and feel that relationship out themselves too.
Yeah.
I am in so many scenarios setting phone calls up with like 3 or 4 different photographers or videographers. And I'm often in my head, like trying to see if I can pick which one they might go with. But usually
make it a little game.
Usually we can get it down to 2 or 3 that we know are really great fit regardless. But they usually go with someone like, it's up to them to figure that out,
of course,
and feel the vibe. So,
Would you say that they tend to go on more of like a style based choice with like photography versus like the personality? Like what matters more, would you say, like personality or talent and style and whatever? Like
it's definitely a combination. We have shown photographers to couples that don't exactly match their style because we feel so strongly about like the person that we know they are. And they have gone in that direction. So different from the style, the edit style that they were originally thinking. But I do believe that oftentimes that has to do with the venue too, that they end up selecting. So often, like before their wedding, they're envisioning like these warm photos maybe, but once they select their venue, they realize, there's a lot of green here versus a beach setting, and we want to have it
really
feel
dark.
A little bit. So even though they may think they want a certain style, sometimes it changes because of other factors, not just
That's interesting.
That's amazing that you kind of like match up the two, because that's probably such like a hard process for like some people to decide, like you're like wedding people, especially like, and if you're not like a photography like person, or you're not sure about like venue, lighting, location, all the elements that makes up those photographs, like you could easily look at something and be like, oh, I like that, but then not realize that it might not go with their venue or the colors that they chose, or I don't know. There's just a lot of like little elements that go into planning anything that people don't think about. So I think that your business is genius in the sense that you help bring all that together, and you're really like just helping match that up for people, because that takes a lot of work and pressure off of your clients. So that's awesome.
And I'm sure not all wedding planners do that too, like put that much effort into it.
Yeah, I would say just one of our recent clients, we spent 10 hours just on the conversation portion of things. So we're on those phone calls with the clients to help facilitate the conversation. And again, they are leading that conversation themselves, but we are there to kind of help ask questions that they may not have thought of.
Right.
And just kind of guide the conversation a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if you're a vendor and you're like a photographer, a florist, like any kind of creative individual and wanting to work with your company, how would you do you like people to approach you? Do you like them to email you? Do you not like that? Is that not a no-no? Like, how does that happen? Do you just specifically pick people, or how does that happen?
I love that question so much, because that is something that we are always, we reach out actually to a lot of people that we see that we want to work with, hopefully before the point where we actually meet them on an event, because we want to get to know people on a personal level first. So I love that question. Reaching out via email or even just on Instagram. It is so helpful to get to know you on, that personal level first before, and then we kind of have that, in the back of our minds when we are talking to a client. I'm usually, when I first get on a phone call, an inquiry call with a couple or anyone planning an event, I always have some thoughts in my head, in the back of my mind immediately, like, ooh, this person feels like they would really get along with so-and-so. And so having that, and, that contact early and reaching out to people that, you might want to work with, whether it be us or other planners or other florists that you really vibe with their design and, or I was going to get into this too, like just talking about if you're really trying to get into like micro weddings or elopements and things like that, really looking at venues that go towards that direction. So thinking about like smaller venues, boutique venues. If you want to shoot there, if you want to do smaller weddings, look for those types of places that you want to connect with and just reach out to them, because it means so much.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever help photographers connect with those venues, or is it just kind of like more like, these are my photographers, these are my venues, these are my florists? Like, do you help everyone kind of connect together, or is it more
that's a great question too. My favorite thing, I truly believe that like what you put out into the universe, it comes back to you. So anytime I see an opportunity where I think someone might vibe or fit, an aesthetic or personality wise with someone else, I am always trying to connect others, because I hope that others would do the same for me. So thinking about if, for instance, an editorial photographer that shoots fashion really well, like Josie, she does amazing at that. And I know,
thank you,
Vanya, you take, portraits for people. So thinking about like the things that you do really well, or that other vendors do really well. We're always looking for opportunities if we're, touring a venue and I'm like, oh, the style of this person's edits would fit really well here. Definitely always sharing the names of those people that we've worked with. Like that's 100%.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. It's always good.
You go above and beyond,
connector.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I know. That is awesome. Because I don't think a lot of people, I don't know, maybe they do, but I think that yours is interesting because you do have that like extra attention to detail. And I'm sure that's where your design background fits in, because you have that eye for, this is going to work here. This person is going to work with this person, like this aesthetic is going to match up. This client with this person is going to match up. Like that takes skill.
Thank you. And going off of that, because we work in so many different places, for instance, I have a friend, another a makeup artist that actually worked out of Pensacola, and she was moving to the Charlotte area. And because we work in the Charlotte area and we've been there and we've developed relationships with those vendors, I just, shot a message out to all of the people we'd worked with and said, hey, she's coming to the area. So different, like scenarios like that, we're always looking to help connect, because it's so helpful to have that like firsthand experience with someone. So anytime that we can share ours, it means so much.
Yeah, I agree. The building relationships is the most important part. Do you guys ever do like wedding shows? I don't know. I'm not in the wedding industry, so I'm trying to keep up with you, but like the wedding shows, I know Josie, you've done those for your photography, but like the shows where, is that something that photographers should do? Is that helpful? Do you think that
I think that's
or even florists or anybody really, like videographers, like, is that a good thing to do, or is that kind of overrated? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
No, that's definitely a great question. I have explored that avenue, and just because of our involvement with like personality and really getting to know clients and the specific vibe and things that we're looking for, those events for us are a little bit less personal, because they feel like you have a limited amount of time, and there's a lot of walking around in the space, and obviously you can meet people face to face, which is, that part of it to me is amazing.
Right.
I love to meet people for coffee and things like that.
Same.
But I definitely am looking for a little bit more of like that an intimate experience. So having the opportunity to chat with people for a longer period of time. And we believe that like the right people for us are going to find us when they're looking on social media, and when they see our work tagged at different places and through other vendors. So that fit for us is not as strong, but I could see how it might work for other people. If they're specifically in one area too, like because we work in so many different places, it's harder because that's a little bit more focused to a region. And we're really trying to do a lot of different locations. So that's why we don't do those as often. But I could see how that like face-to-face opportunity could be nice for some.
Beneficial, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what would you say for like beginning people that are just trying to break into the wedding like niche? Like, what are your tips for them? Like, where do they even start with this kind of stuff? Because I feel like it's so like hard to just kind of get your foot in the door, right? Like, where would you start?
It's like a chicken egg type
situation.
Scenario. You're like, I need photos, but I don't know how to get them, and I don't know how to get people. Yeah, absolutely. So, definitely talking about content days, like what we're planning with the photo scene, connecting with other photographers, and kind of just having discussions with them about their experiences, being open about that. It's so powerful to hear other people's experiences. So at events like the Photo Scenes Content Day in August, you have that opportunity to not only, work with others and learn from them, but hear and relate to their previous experiences. And that's so helpful. Also, when you're attending those, you get the opportunity to shoot almost what would be like a full gallery. So you're getting the opportunity to share with other couples that might be interested in either events with weddings or even like branding material, or couples in particular, being able to showcase your ability that way. But again, also being at those events, you're going to be tagging the venue. You're going to be tagging all the other vendors that are a part of it, and they're going to be sharing your content on their stories, and maybe even on their feeds if they like your work. So that is all just so powerful to be able to have that experience and content as a result. Another way that you can do it is to offer people, the kind of a free opportunity to shoot them. You can shoot your friends, You can shoot people
How
that
we started.
yeah, exactly. Just getting the practice as much as possible. Like when I first started, I did a couple of styled shoots because there's really no other way for me to
Right.
the ability for me to create. So that's how I started to showcase what I was able to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you just grabbed a couple of friends. Like, did you find some models? I mean, there's quite a bit of production that goes into that. So when you started, how did you get all the stuff, or did you
Absolutely. Talking to that, we actually will do consultations with photographers that are starting out often to help them understand the process of a styled shoot. Because, we get a lot of photographers that reach out to us and they say, how do you plan a styled shoot? Like, I've never done this before. How does it work? Where do I start? How do I ask vendors to be a part of it? And there are a lot of different ways to go about creating a styled shoot. You can have it be more collaborative, but sometimes styled shoots are specifically brand focused. So all of the vendors that are participating come in under the awareness that they're creating something for a specific client versus the couple, so that in particular, sometimes planners will put together a styled shoot for their own website and they make it, a priority that design is for them and for their brand.
Their specific client.
Exactly. Right? But sometimes the collaborative efforts are for everyone. So that means that the end goal is a little bit more open for everyone involved. They have a little bit more control with, stationary designs and things like that. To go about it and drive in their own creative direction. Right. So there's a lot of ways to go about styled shoots and having that be clear to the people that you're working with from the start is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Josie, I'm gonna give you the floor and let you. I know you've got. I know
this whole time.
I know
you're just going, so I'm just letting you go. So, Patricia, what is your favorite part of wedding planning? Like, why do you love to do what you do?
That's a really good question too. I love the fact that every project, every event, every couple is so different. I definitely would not like to be working on the same thing every single day. So I think my favorite part is learning about people's family differences.
Yeah.
Like that's a challenge for a lot of people, but it is very interesting I'm sure. To learn about how people interact and what drives their decision-making process, and obviously the different designs that we get to create. Those are some of the fun part, really, really fun parts. But it's definitely every day. My husband, who I call my husband assistant, he will tell you
that's cute.
There is a new challenge every day. He's like, what is it today?
Really?
So there's a new challenge every day, which really, really keeps things exciting. And it makes, I don't know, this job doesn't feel like it's
redundant.
It also doesn't feel painful in any way. I have worked in a lot of different settings before that weren't the right fit for me, not in events, but in other things. And this is definitely the right place for me because I know every day I'm excited to be doing what I'm doing.
That's so important.
And and getting to know, like, I'm sure you guys get this feeling too, but anytime I get a new inquiry, I'm just so excited to meet whoever it is and get to know them and hear about what their vision is and help them. Even if a client, on one little aspect of their day, if I share like 10 different things with them and they don't decide to use any of them, it doesn't ever hurt my feelings. As long as we're helping get a client to their end goal, and like whatever avenue that takes, it doesn't matter. Like a lot of times people feel like, oh my gosh, we just had, we looked at 18 different things and I only liked one of them. And that was, but it doesn't matter. It's like, that is part of the process. Like
are you talking about things like, sorry. So like when you're talking about things, like when you're giving people, like, are you just talking about like giving them ideas for vendors, style, location,
so
like that kind of thing? Okay.
Exactly. Like if a client, if they don't know exactly what they want all the time, obviously that's our job to help identify like your options. So that is so much fun for me to do. And even if we're helping you identify what isn't the right path, even that is helpful. So at the end of the day, if we can make your life just like a percentage easier, we're getting closer to the end goal. So that's what we focus on, is like that there's challenges, but that's what makes this so exciting. So.
Yeah. So another question would be, I've already asked you this, but I want to ask you again because I think it's a really good question. What is the difference between a wedding coordinator and a wedding planner?
Oh, I love that question.
That's a good one. I don't even know that.
And a venue coordinator.
I think it's important photographers understand their role, because I'm always feeling like I need to take over and I need to like get to the timeline and do it all. And then some wedding planners don't like that. So
no, that's a really, really great question. So talking about wedding coordinator, wedding planner, and even event like venue coordinators, where those three are all very, very different. So talking about a coordinator, that person is there to take what the client or the couple has put into place and make sure that it happens seamlessly. So they're taking all the contracts, all the contact information for all the different vendors, and making sure that everything occurs on time, in an orderly fashion, and it occurs seamlessly. That's what a coordinator's job is. A planner is doing all the work that leads up to that point. And usually probably the coordination portion as well. So a planner is a little bit more of a high level description, but it means they were a little bit more or a lot more involved than a coordinator might be. So that's why that difference in the way that you might credit a planner or a coordinator is so important, because the level of involvement and work behind that is a huge difference.
Yeah, it's kind of like a draftsman and an architect, right? Like that. Like, I don't know if you get into the construction, just because I just redid my house. So I have that in my mind. I'm like, I had to learn that. I was like, a draftsman will like literally just take any idea you want and make it a reality. And they're just like, they kind of do that. But the architect actually helps you design. So I kind of compare the two, because you're actually helping them plan and design their event, whereas a draftsman's like, just give me what you want and I'll make it happen. So it's like there's two very different, like if you're very like, if you know exactly what you want, go ahead, give it to the coordinator and like let them do it for you, like kind of put it all in order. And then for you, like it's like, I don't know what I want, so I would give it to a planner. Is that kind of correct? Am I in the same
that absolutely, for sure. Okay. And then speaking to, like, we have a lot of people that will say, oh, I decided to book a venue that has a coordinator. So that's amazing. Venue coordinators are so valuable and so important to the process. But they do things a little bit differently. And there's a reason why a separate planner or coordinator is still extremely valuable. So venue coordinators have a really great in-depth knowledge of the venue that they work in. And they have the ability to work with you on the contracts that are specific to the venue and making sure that you're following all the guidelines, things like rules about where you can and can't take photos, or if you can use candles or fake candles, things like that. So all of that is very, very important to the success of your day. However, having someone that is solely for you to review your other contracts and, making sure that you're getting the right fit for your photographer on a personal level, and really like the complete design of your day, and making sure that it's not just fit for the venue, but everything else you have going on. That's why having a separate coordinator or planner can be so helpful, even if you have a venue coordinator as well.
Are you supposed to do all three?
I was going to say, what do you do when the venue comes with one? Because I know sometimes they do. Do they just not work when you are involved?
We work with a lot of venue coordinators on a regular basis, and that is completely something that we are happy to do. I do know that some venues offer planning packages, so that would be a little bit different. You might not need to have a separate complete planner or coordinator in that scenario. But in terms of just a venue coordinator and having a planner, that is a pretty strong difference. And then I think you had a separate part of that question too that I didn't answer.
No, we were just asking essentially like if they all worked, if you absolutely have to have all three, or if it's can you get one, or do all three? Do you always work together?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, I would say it is so important to always have a coordinator, regardless of what you're going to do. Make sure that you have a coordinator for your day.
They put it all together.
Things like, considering, especially in, you could say a venue coordinator, they're there for you at the venue, but who's going to be there for you in your hotel room, making sure that your dress is steamed so that your mom can be there for pictures while you're getting, everything done. Mom shouldn't be back in the room steaming her dress while you're putting your jewelry on. She should be a part of that experience. And so that's why having us for your whole day is so valuable. It's different than having someone just at the venue. There's so much more to the experience of your day than just what happens at the venue.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah, that does. That was helpful.
And then answering your question again about all three of them, I would say just having at least a coordinator for your wedding day is like, that's a must. I would say,
so just you would say if you had to pick something, you would pick a coordinator out of.
Yeah. If I told my best friend, I always say like, even if you don't use me for your wedding day, you have to have a coordinator. Like you can't go without a coordinator.
I wish that you were in my life back in 2015. I had none of that. I did a DIY wedding. I got married in my backyard and literally was taking care of, it was a super small wedding. We had like maybe, 30, 35 people in our backyard. But I remember being so like overwhelmed just with that because I had no coordinator. Like I just kind of randomly picked here and there for things, and it was a lot. And it was just a small backyard wedding. Like it was so much that went into it because I just like looking at Pinterest and like, oh, la, 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 like this looks great. I'm going to do this and this and this. When it came down to it, like putting that all together was such a big job that I just didn't. I had blinders on, the Pinterest got me sucked in.
And I always tell people like you wouldn't sell your house usually without a realtor. So don't do your wedding without a planner because you don't do that every day. You don't get married every weekend. We essentially are helping people get married every weekend. Yep. So like we get to see all of that and see it on a very detailed level over and over and over again. So we can help you to make sure that you're not only like feeling amazing on your wedding day, but that all of the little things that you might not have thought of, or even the things you're like, oh my gosh, like I should have thought of that. Like we're there to make sure that, that happens and that
all loose ends.
Yeah. That you don't feel like, oh, I wish I had known that. Or I wish I hadn't been over there doing that when I should have been just like drinking my champagne,
absolutely.
enjoying.
Absolutely. I totally felt that way.
So how can photographers build relationships with people like you, wedding planners, in order to get themselves more into the wedding industry? Do you have like suggestions for those photographers wanting to be doing more weddings?
Yeah, absolutely. So like we said before, getting into different content days and educational workshops is so important. Just connecting with people on social media, starting to follow them and learning from them. You can listen to podcasts like this one and learn from
so important.
Learn from other people's experiences and read other people's blogs and make sure you're interacting with them, because when you start to develop that relationship online, you realize that there's a lot of things that you might have in common with them, and you can connect on that deeper level from that initial contact of just commenting on someone's feed or on their blog. And then, hey, I want to talk to them more about that. Send them a direct message and ask them a question. We all want to feel connected and needed somehow in this world. Like that's a life, that's a human aspect of things. So everybody can benefit from those. I always say perspectives that are coming from 10 different people is always more valuable than just one. It's learning how to utilize those. So if you can talk to people about their different perspectives and how they put them into action.
Yeah. Are there any like no-nos though? Like how, like, I mean, we talked about a lot of like the positives of like, but what about like the mistakes that, people make when they're trying to build relationships? But,
oh my gosh. Such a good point. I love that question. Okay. So from working with a lot of different creatives, I know, one thing in particular, if you're commenting on something that has like thousands of likes and comments on it, if it's not like a contest where you're supposed to just mention someone's name, I don't recommend just like commenting someone's Instagram handle on someone else's creative work. Because
so you mean like tagging somebody? Okay.
Yeah. If you're gonna share something with someone, send them a screenshot. Yeah, that sounds irritating. Send it.
Why do they do why do they do that? Like, what is the point of
I'm
not understanding.
I think that people that create works of art feel as if you might be just like sharing that piece to be copied.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I feel so strongly that, especially in design, and I'm sure that you guys hear this all the time on different types of social media, that there really is like, you can talk about music, you can talk about interior design, you can talk about events. There really is no new 100% new idea. Right. Everything is built off of something else.
Right.
But it's really, really important that like if you see something that you love and you're like, I'm really inspired by that color scheme or that design scheme, if you are going to go off of that you create something, maybe it has like a little tiny piece of it, but it should be adjusted.
Use it as inspiration.
Yeah, at least 10 to 15 different ways. And
absolutely.
Looking at like someone else's photo, for instance, if you've seen like, I don't know if you guys have seen like those overlay photos, like people feel like photographers feel
double
like,
exposure.
Yeah, sometimes that those are like their property, or especially in like the design industry, like installations are a big one. But making sure that like, if you like the way that something was installed or like an escort display, things like that, definitely just towing the line of using the idea, but also like making sure that it's changed in a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
And, when you're sharing ideas, making sure that you're conscious of that like you're not just commenting, but more so, you can send the photo to someone or comment something nice about what is in that photo. Yeah. That's always really, I think you would, so-and-so, you'd really like this design. Isn't that dress beautiful? Something like that. So that there's a little bit more.
I think a good practice is to like pull out the elements that you like just what are the elements that
Yes.
you like about this photo, and like maybe comment on those, because that might get your
Yeah.
brain working about like, okay, like I don't like I'm looking at it more, and I'm looking at it more in depth. Like, what is it that I actually like about
Yes.
this? Like, let me
Yes.
comment on that, or like let me tell somebody about like what is it that I like about this, versus just being
Yes.
like the whole thing, gonna do it. Like kind of thing.
Yes.
I'm not saying like
Yes.
everyone does that to copy,
Yeah.
but it's just,
No,
it's a good
you
practice, I think.
yeah, you hit it. You hit the nail on the head. Just like having some more meat to that conversation, and like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
really, really talking about like we talk about, especially working with couples all the time. Like we get sent, well, someone
I'm
will send
sure.
us like, I like this. Okay,
Yeah.
so
What do
let's
you like
talk
about
about like what parts of that do you like?
it?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
what parts of that are you not drawn to? Because we want to make sure we're not taking something out of there that you maybe aren't drawn to. Just by
Right.
looking at the photo, I might see, something totally different than what you see.
Right.
And
Right.
so talking about that, and really getting to exactly what you just said, the parts that you're drawn to, and why you're drawn to them, like it makes you feel a certain way. And making sure that you convey that when you're talking to others about
Yeah.
it.
So what
Yeah.
is there any other no-nos that you would say that happen
Yes.
besides?
Yeah. I was going to talk about especially with like collaborations, something that's really important to us is that we are always being conscientious of like what other people feel their value is worth. So making sure, like, I think that this is talked about all the time with like influencers, and this is the same with planners, and I could say it about anything really, making sure that you're conscious of like developing a relationship first, and not just reaching out like, hey, I want to use your stuff, can you send it to
Right.
me? Like,
Yes. Yes.
really
Yeah.
talking about like, I really think that this design would fit, what you're looking to expand into. And I'm open, I've set aside this budget to make this happen, but it's also a collaborative effort where people are going to be sharing your work in different ways. And we have, a goal to have it featured on this blog. And making sure that they understand the value behind it too, and but also being open to that compensation side of things, because everyone's time is worth different things to everyone.
Yeah.
If that makes
Yeah.
sense, like everybody values their time and their products in different ways. So making sure that you're not defining that for others.
Right. So not making assumptions, essentially.
Exactly.
Sum that up. Don't make assumptions on what other people are willing to do with their time versus.
And don't be insulted if you're wrong about, you thought it was going to be different. That's fine.
Yeah.
You can be open and say, unfortunately didn't budget enough for that this time, but next time I'll definitely keep that in mind because I want to work with you, and being respectful that way. Like, I know I want to work with you. So the next time I'm working on this sort of project, I'm going to make sure that I budget enough to achieve that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other no-nos?
I don't think so.
She likes the no.
Okay.
Is there any tips for us photographers on how we can make like your life easier as far as like a wedding day goes?
Yeah, I think you spoke to this a little bit ago about like the timeline portion of things, and everybody has a different process for going about that. So
I noticed that's why it's tough to navigate. Like,
how
do you want to do this?
Yeah, everybody has a different process. So photographers, planners, videographers, everybody does that differently. For us, we like that process to be very like conversational with our clients versus having them answer any sort of questionnaires. So we're definitely like getting on the phone and talking them through those sorts of things. So we don't ever want to, influence another vendor's process. We want to make sure that we're being conscientious of that and making sure that our process flows with theirs. So I think one of the most beneficial things as a planner to hear from a photographer is to understand what their process looks like from the get-go. So when a planner or a coordinator reaches out to you and introduces themselves, and they ask you, do you have any, I like to ask what that process looks like, or if the client has already been sent a questionnaire. Sometimes there's a follow-up phone call to that questionnaire, or they send a follow-up questionnaire to the original questionnaire. Everybody does it differently.
Yeah.
And we as planners want to make our clients and couples' lives as easy as possible. So when we do our timelines, we do set a tentative, very, very loose timeline early in the planning process, just for purposes of, deciding how much time you're going to need for a photographer, or making sure that the makeup artist can actually arrive. If they need to arrive at 7 a.m., that they are actually able to do that, because that could be very detrimental to, like, if the makeup artist doesn't have the capability of arriving that early and the bride needs to be ready by a certain time, that could decide whether or not they're actually a part of the day. So that's why we set just a loose timeline from the get-go. But later on in the process, obviously around about 2 months out, we're setting a lot more in-depth timeline to the day. And having the knowledge of what that process looks like for the photographer. So even if you had it be part of like your original booking process, if there's an email that tells the client, okay, at 3 months out, we're going to have this questionnaire sent, or however it works for you, letting the client know as soon as they book with you, what that whole timeline looks like. Because then when we work with the client, no matter what time during the process we come into play, whether it's 6 months out or 12 months out, they have that information to share with us so that we can be as helpful to you as possible. So what that means is we'll go through on our timeline call with them. We'll actually open up your questionnaire.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we'll ask the questions that you have alongside our questions. And we actually fill out the questionnaire with them. Like, we fill it out for them. Yeah. So that's how it's really helpful for us to know that questionnaire even exists, because if we don't, then the client is like, oh, I got to go fill that questionnaire out. And it just makes the process feel so much smoother, because we're able to alleviate just one more thing. And also, I'm sure you guys have experienced this before, but not everybody always even remembers to fill it out for you. You're constantly reminding them.
Yeah. Hey, go do your homework.
So having someone on your team like us to just fill it out with them and making sure to,
that's so helpful.
A lot of times they have questions. So what does that mean? Or when they say this, do they want me to include every name of every person in every photo? Yes, they do, because they want to make sure they're all a part of that photo. So that's why, knowing that process from our end and being aware of what it looks like, we can then help them through it. And then we can even, if we know there's a phone call coming up, we can kind of start the process of scheduling it and make sure that it gets on their schedule, and make sure that we can help answer any questions and just make it all a lot easier for everybody.
That's awesome.
Process and timeline for photographers, right? To sum that up, you need a process and a timeline.
Being clear about it.
Be clear,
Yeah. And we often ask, if we haven't heard, we'll say, do you have a timeline that you'd like us to incorporate into ours, so that we can just, take your information and make sure it all melts together.
Right.
Yeah.
That's super helpful.
versus just like saying like, here's my timeline, use it,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's helpful. It's good to have that all together and be able to work with, I'm sure you have that, like, well, I guess any other videographer. A videographer would have some sort of timeline, right? Or
Absolutely.
is it just the photographer, the videographer, and is that it?
Do the videographers have timelines? I've never seen. I'm just curious. Do they?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
this is also why it's so important, because we want to make sure, like, for instance, a lot of times if there's like a letter or a gift being opened, both the photographer and the videographer need time for their separate parts of that. So like miking up the couple before they do it, making sure that there's time included for that, and sharing that with the planner and the photographer so that everybody knows, oh, I need to make sure we've got time in there for that, like 10 minutes of miking them up, because otherwise obviously timelines are flexible. We're always working together on the day of things move around. It's totally fine. But having the knowledge of like, oh, that needs to happen, and before they go there, because otherwise we'll miss the opportunity. Like, that's so helpful. So
what happens if a photographer doesn't have a timeline?
We like to just work with them and share, we'll usually just jump on a phone call and talk through it with them and make sure, like, maybe if they don't have a timeline actually physically made, they have one in their head. So they're like, I know I need to have 30 minutes for this portion of things. And we want to make sure that we give them the opportunity to share that with us in advance. So we're not like, hey, you got 10 minutes left. Like, no, we don't ever want to do that to anyone. If you have a vision for how long something should take, we want to know that so that we can adjust things to make it work for everybody.
Yeah.
It definitely sounds like you like to have timelines from the photographer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I've been trying to figure that out, because I've had one planner say, please don't make the timeline. And I'm like, that's new. Like, okay. So I started to question myself, like, what do planners like? Do they prefer that we create it? Or so it's just, it's good to hear.
I want to hear like that you are on the same page. Like, I want to make sure that I'm giving you enough time, because everybody's different, like me setting and my team setting up a table setting could take a totally different amount of time than Joe down the street. Like, I don't know how long it takes Joe to do it. I know how long it takes me to do it. And you know how long it takes you to shoot this many family photos. So you tell me how long that's going to take, and I'm going to make it happen on the timeline.
Right. You're so flexible. I don't think all planners are like that.
Thank you, Josie.
So we are like heading towards the end of the show, and I just kind of want to ask you, Patricia, like, what, like, is there anything that you want, like, industry creatives to know? Like, what's some advice you want to give them, like, to help them continue on their path towards like getting into like working with more vendors, working with weddings? Like, I mean, even though you do weddings, you do more than just weddings too, but is there anything that you want them to know as final thoughts?
I would just say, like, being open to different people's perspectives and, trying your best to like give people the benefit of the doubt up front and giving them a chance to like get to know you. Is everybody comes at things from a different angle. So definitely just being as open as you can with communication. Clear and open communication is just like so important to us. And keeping your perspectives open to different ones. And not being afraid to just introduce yourself, because, not everybody is going to like the taste of your tea, and if they don't,
I like that.
I like that too. I'm going to use that too. That is so cute.
They're not all going to like the taste of your tea. And so if if they don't, like, don't worry. Like their
It's okay.
your tea's just not meant for them.
Like, don't take it
and
personal, essentially.
yeah, and you don't want to share tea that with people that don't enjoy your tea. So you want to be with the right people for you. So don't be afraid if someone doesn't give you like the best response right off the bat,
don't get
keep going.
Right?
Don't feel like, oh, I shouldn't go introduce myself to any more planners or photographers or florists because that person wasn't right. Like, just keep trying, because it won't, you'll find the right people for you.
I agree 100%.
And those are the people that you want to work with.
Yeah, I agree. Finding your tribe, but being open. I like it.
Yeah.
So do one of you want to talk about what we have coming up for the photographers out there that are interested in doing a styled session with you that we have coming up? It's a content building workshop day. One of you want to talk about it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll start if that's okay. I'm so excited. I'm so honored that you guys, asked us to help with this event. It's going to be so much fun because I think we're all on the same page of being open to different perspectives and really welcoming to all different levels. This is going to be not only educational, but you're going to be able to take content away that you can use, and don't feel like just because you're at a certain level, whether it be beginner or even, more advanced photographers, like, we welcome everybody. We want to get to know you. Everyone's perspectives are so, so valuable. I'm working with a new lead planner that has been training with me for the past 8 months. She is amazing. Her name is Kayla. And I'm so, so excited to be working with her, but she brings such new, fresh ideas to our team. And that is so valuable. So just transferring that to our event that we're planning in August. We're so excited.
That's exciting.
Everybody will bring a different perspective to the event. We're going to be talking about photographer-specific relationship things that you can utilize in the events industry, and how you can work with planners specifically, and how you can style events and things like that. But also, I know that you guys are going to be bringing to the table some things with photography too. So I'll let you speak to that, Josie.
So we're going to be doing some educational aspects of this workshop. So we're super excited to be coaching the photographers that want to be coached. I mean, as you said, there's going to be advanced and there's going to be newer photographers. There's going to be a mix of everybody. So we'll basically just be walking around. We'll shoot too, but we'll walk around and see, like, if a photographer seems confused or if they have any questions. And we're also going to have that topic that we know we want to go into it with, that we want to teach them. Like, Vanya might have one topic and I might have another that we know for sure. If people are looking like they need some encouragement, we'll bring that to the table. So just kind of like ebb and flow, I guess. Vanya, is that how you feeling?
Like an interactive portfolio building day. So if they're, we're not just going to leave you there hanging. So this is good for beginning photographers too, because even you're going to pick up a lot of the tips and tricks. We might walk you through exactly what we're thinking, like on the time that we're walking into the space, and where we might position the couple or our subjects, and then talk about lighting or posing. Like, we're just going to give you a lot of guidance as to what we do specifically on our photo shoots. And, we hope to be super transparent with everyone. And I hope that we offer a lot of tips and tricks that you can take away and just use straight away. And not only that, like, you're going to be building amazing portfolio images that you're going to show to clients that are going to book you because of this. Like, your portfolio images are the first thing that they see. So it's super duper important. And we're so excited to have these content portfolio building days. And we're so excited to have Patricia, on board with us for planning this and styling it. And it's just going to be awesome, you guys. And so I want you to subscribe to our newsletter and make sure that you are the first to hear about it. Follow all of us on social media. Patricia, do you want to give them your handles and where they can find you, where they can reach out to you at?
Yeah. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and our website is allyourplanaevents.com and at your plan A events. It is all the same, and you can reach out to us on Instagram. Like I said, I'm all about communication and all the types. So you can reach out to me anywhere. I am not opposed to anything. I love to chat with people and learn from others. So please don't ever hesitate to reach out. Even a quick question, I'm happy to answer things. And if there are any other creatives listening that might want to participate in our events in the future, anything, if you create any products or anything and you want to reach out to us about partnerships, we are open to those as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Patricia.
Yeah, thank you so much, Patricia.
Thank you, guys. It was so much fun to chat with you today and learn more about you from your first podcast. It was amazing. If you guys haven't heard it yet, definitely listen because it's amazing to learn about both of you. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we're very excited about this new adventure we're taking. So
absolutely.
Thank you for being our very first guest.
It was so much fun today. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.